Okay, so we're live. We're live again with our European networks of Migrant Women Reality Watch. And today we're very, very happy to have as our guest, all the way from Ukraine, Maria Dmytriyeva, who is an expert in women's rights with a long history of advocacy for gender equality and women's rights in Ukraine, but also internationally, as I know. We will address different subjects with one specific focus or theme. It's the reproductive exploitation of women, which has a name, surrogacy. There has been a lot of developments in this area recently, not only in Ukraine, but also in Europe. We know in some European countries there are proposals for legalizing either what they call the altruistic surrogacy or the full kind of version of commercial surrogacy. We know that this has been happening also in many states in Asia, in South Asia, also in Latin America. We know that this industry is present basically globally, also in the African continent. And what we do know that Ukraine became a place that has been particularly affected by this. And we have signed only a few days ago an appeal, a letter that was signed by 200 women's rights organizations, including Equality Now, for example, addressed to the president of Ukraine, basically appealing to ban the reproductive exploitation of women. We're going to speak about this later, but for the moment, Marie, if you could introduce yourself, your work, and give us a general picture of what is happening in Ukraine and why there is so much discussion and why so much attention goes towards the surrogacy industry in the Ukrainian context. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Anna, for introducing me. I am a radical feminist. I have been one for many years. I realized that I'm a feminist when I was like maybe 14 or 15. And when I was 25, I realized I was a radical feminist. And I've been talking to people about feminism and women's rights, I think maybe about 30 years now. And I run one of the largest, if not the largest, Facebook group on feminism in the post-Soviet countries, which is called Feminism UA. We have almost 10,000 people in it now. People from Ukraine, and when I say people, I mean women. Women from Ukraine, women from other post-Soviet countries, Ukrainian women living elsewhere, and women who share our views from other countries who are not of Ukrainian origin. Because in the course of development of this community, we ended up in a pretty radical feminist setting. We don't support a legalization of prostitution. We are squarely for the equality model. We are squarely against surrogacy. We are squarely against pornography. And for many young feminists, it puts us, it pictures us as the bad guys. And we have a lot of friction over it. And I've been accused of splintering the Ukrainian feminist movement for my views, which I have been holding for many years now. And as an expert, I do research on gender issues, women's rights. In the recent years, I've been concentrating mostly on 1325, women, peace, security. And for me, both these spheres, women, peace, security, and pornography, prostitution, and surrogacy, they all fit squarely in the area of human security and women's rights. And the issue of surrogacy in Ukraine didn't draw much attention until recently. We've been hearing now and then about some dreadful cases of a woman dying in childbirth because she was a commissioned surrogate, but it doesn't make it to the news because, well, a woman dying in childbirth is nothing new. But with this company that posted their video on YouTube of those babies that they are, the clients that commissioned them are unable to pick up because of the quarantine, and accusing the Ukrainian government of closing the borders and preventing those parents from taking care of their babies, it did cause a lot of uproar and a lot of discussions, again, not only in the wider society, but in the feminist community in Ukraine as well. For many of my colleagues, it was a clear case of trafficking in humans, both in women who were exploited and in babies. But for a lot of young feminists, and not only young feminists, older feminists as well, they see this as an opportunity for women from lower social economic classes to make money and purchase their own apartment. And this is a quite understandable stance, especially if we take into account that women who agree to surrogacy, in case everything goes as planned, they are paid around, from what I've seen in the advertisements, from $15,000 to $20,000. And the average salary in Ukraine is about $300 a month now. So for people who are impoverished and who have nothing else but their bodies and their health, this may look like a very lucrative and very nice way to make money, to deal with their immediate situation of not having a place to live, of caring for their children, especially if they have children with disabilities or they have relatives who need urgent care. But overall, the discussion in Ukraine pretty much lacks the what women and feminists in other countries have been talking about for the last 20 years about this. There is no understanding that in other countries surrogacy is banned, both commercial and altruistic. And with India and, if I'm not mistaken, Bangladesh banning surrogacy, clients who usually used to commission children from there now switch to Ukraine. And while India was still producing those babies for sale, I was grimly joking that Ukraine is the place where people who are too racist to buy a baby from a brown woman would go and purchase their babies from.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, we know that in Thailand, I think there was a wave of prohibition of surrogacy, and it was happening because there was a realization that it was becoming basically a manufacturing, like an industry of exploitation, where the most impoverished women were caught. And the governments of those countries took a political position, and they banned the whole industry. I mean, probably there's still underground. It continues, but it's not legalized. Speaking about which, the legal framework. What is the actual legal framework in Ukraine? What does the law say in terms of who can become surrogate, who can purchase a baby? Are there any criteria, any limitations, and what is the government's role in the regulation of this sector?
Okay, I will have to put my glasses on for that part.
Mm.
So there is no specific law on surrogacy. There are three paragraphs in the Code of Laws on Family, or the so-called Family Code of Ukraine, which addresses the use of assistive reproductive technologies. These paragraphs basically say that when a wife gives birth to a child which was the result of use of those assistive reproductive technologies, which were done with the written permission from her husband, the husband is recorded as the father of the child.
And mother?
The one who gives the birth, she is giving the birth.
Yes. Okay.
The surrogacy is lumped together with IVF.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the second paragraph says that if a woman gestates an embryo that resulted from her husband's sperm and donated egg, is the gestating woman and the man who gave the sperm, who is her husband, they are recorded as parents of the child.
Mm-hmm.
So this allows for the use of donated eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And the last paragraph says here that just a second. No. That was the third one. If the woman donates an egg and her husband donates a sperm, and the baby is gestated by a different woman, they are still recorded as the parents. So
Okay, so this is actually the case.
yeah, this is it. This is like 3 paragraphs.
Mm-hmm.
So if the woman gestates an embryo from a different from an egg from a different woman with the sperm of her husband, so the husband is directly related to the baby, they are officially the parents.
Mm-hmm.
And and if the embryo of their from her egg and his sperm is gestated by a different woman, they are officially the parents. So this means that unlike in other countries in Europe that still have surrogacy allowed, a woman who gestates doesn't have any claim to the baby whatsoever.
Yes, this is very clear. And does this concern, this is a code, a family code for the Ukrainian citizens. Does it work in the same way for anybody who comes from another country?
There is another document. It is not a law. It is the order of the Ministry of Healthcare. It was adopted in 2013, and it also addresses the use of reproductive technologies, which are considered a means to treat infertility issues. And somewhere in between, somewhere deep inside it, there is a portion on surrogacy.
Okay.
And basically, for a family of Ukrainian citizens to be able to commission a surrogate, they have to write a statement. The father has to agree to this, and the surrogate has to produce a document from her husband that he agrees to this. So if the husband doesn't agree to this, the woman cannot do this work for them. And it also people who commission a baby through surrogacy have to produce the document that states that they are unable to do this by themselves due to medically confirmed diagnosis, either on his side or on her side. If they have problems that would endanger their lives in case of pregnancy, or if a woman doesn't have the full set of organs necessary for the pregnancy. They have the exhaustive list of those. But it doesn't specify what documents foreign citizens have to produce. And based on what I've read from investigative journalist materials on the topic, not always this is the task of a medical company that offers those services to go through all the paperwork. It is very often agents or agencies who deal with that, and they find the surrogates, or surrogates come to them, they prepare the documents. And this pretty much, so there is no official framework that would regulate the rights of the baby born in such a situation. And there was an event held this winter. It was conducted by our governmental commissioner for gender equality policy. It was specifically on surrogacy and its dangers in regard to human trafficking. And this event, one of its speakers was a person from the anti-trafficking department from our national police. And he said that there is no official data on how many children were born thanks to surrogates, and how many women were participating in surrogacy programs, successfully or unsuccessfully, and how many women donated eggs. There are about, based on those investigative journalist materials, we have about 60 clinics all over the country offering this kind of services. And they don't report this officially anywhere. So we don't know how many babies are born through this. And this police officer said that based on their data, up to one half, maybe more, of babies that end up in the orphanages, like we have specific system of orphanages for babies, he said that about a half of such babies in the recent years were the babies resulting from surrogacy that were not picked up by their commissioning parents because they didn't like the result, or babies had some issues with their health, or maybe they were the wrong sex, or so they are not obliged to pick up the baby, and they can commission as many babies as they want. Last year, we had a scandal with a couple who had like 12 babies commissioned from different surrogate mothers here in Ukraine, and they were planning to take those babies to Georgia, and they are now being held on charges of human trafficking because they were unable to explain why they commissioned 12 babies. One of the babies died, if I'm not mistaken. So. Basically, there are no limitations on how many babies you can commission, but if you are a foreigner, you are supposed to take the surrogate and your partner to the embassy of your country where the procedure is finalized.
What do you mean by finalized?
That the baby becomes their own and the citizen of the country that they are from.
So it's done immediately on the territory of Ukraine. They just have to go to their embassy. And is there also a transfer of parental rights? Or is the baby immediately registered in their names? Or somehow the birth mother becomes the mother, and then there is like adoption procedure?
Based on what I've read, they are supposed to be written down as the birth parents.
Okay.
She isn't included in the papers.
Right. I mean, this would make sense according to what you're saying to the law that you quoted previously.
And this is even worse if the commissioning parents don't pick up the child. The birth mother has no right to get this baby from the hospital or from the orphanage because she has no claim to the baby.
Mm-hmm. And so is this the situation that we saw in media, all of these pictures of babies being accommodated in some hotels or somewhere else and like waiting to be picked up? Basically, the mother, if she wants to claim this baby, she has no right.
She has no right. All there have been reports of women who were commissioned through agencies. And after they gave birth, they during the quarantine, they are stuck with the babies in the apartments that the agency rented for them, and they have to take care of the babies because they will not be paid until the commissioning parents come and pick up the baby and pay the agency, and then the agency will pay them.
Okay.
And women, one of the prerequisites to become a surrogate is that you have your own children. Without any health issues. And if you are stuck for the last parts of the pregnancies, they're usually taken to Kiev, where all the major clinics are, not all, but most. And they cannot leave those babies to go to their families. And this is one of the issues for them. They are not compensated for this. They are stuck with babies 24/7. There are no nannies available to them, and they are not paid, and they are not given their monthly or daily allowance.
Mm-hmm. Which would be the monthly or daily allowance. Is this part of this contract? So if a woman gets paid 15,000 or 20,000, this monthly allowance, daily allowance are already included in this sum, right?
Based on what the journalists dug up, the usual procedure is that surrogates are covered medical tests, and they are given maybe $200 or $300 a month for food, so that they produce healthy babies. And some agencies also provide a line that if they have to terminate a pregnancy, she is compensated for some of the promised sum, but it is not a rule. There are no regulations on how this woman would be compensated if the commissioning parents want to terminate a pregnancy, if a developing fetus has some issues. In such cases, they can be forced to have an abortion very late in the pregnancy, like up to 5 to 6 months. Because it is the commissioning parents' right to decide whether they want this baby with problems, or the woman is deprived of any decisions in the matters of her health and her pregnancy. All that is decided by the agency. So
what if the woman wants to terminate the pregnancy? I don't know. She just wants to terminate the pregnancy, not specifically on any conditions. She doesn't want to carry a child.
she will be paid.
She won't be paid in this case, right?
Yeah. Also, there have been cases when the commissioning parents abandoned the contract or the agency disappeared, and women were stuck with their pregnancies that they were not able with the babies that they will not be able to keep because they are already very poor, and they are stuck and they don't have anywhere to go. And in Ukraine, you cannot have an abortion after 24 weeks. If there are no medical reasons to do so.
Yes.
So,
yeah. Okay. So this is bad enough. I mean, in terms of absence of the regulation, or should I say that absence of proper regulation on this? But the role, so there is a law or the absence of the law, and this is how the industry works. And of course, we understand that these are financial interests. And what is your assessment of this actual industry of those? I mean, sometimes they're called fertility clinics. They have all of these names, helping families and couples, like Happy Family and Future Life and so on. But we know that in reality, they're most of the time business people, and I should specify businessmen most of the time. How far is this industry spread, and what is their connection with? We know that such industries do not grow if there is no overt approval from the structures of power. And how bad do you think this is? But more importantly, what steps do you think should be taken to cut the roots of this industry?
I can't tell you about the scope. From what I've read, we have those 60 clinics. That would be 2 to 3 clinics per region in Ukraine. But from what I've read, they are mostly concentrated in Kiev because it is easier to obtain the technology, to obtain the doctors, and it is easier for women engaged in surrogacy to go elsewhere so that they are not seen by their relatives and friends. Because while in the progressive circles, the surrogacy is seen as something that women have the power to decide over, my body, my choice. But in smaller localities, it may be frowned upon, and there have been cases where women in the latest stages of their surrogacy were kept under lock and key in the maternity hospitals so that they don't do any harm to their prospective baby. And they were not allowed to take any decisions as to the process of the birth. And if the commissioning parents demanded it was a cesarean, the woman would get a cesarean. It doesn't matter what she wants or how she. And in Ukraine, we have a pretty popular neoliberal capitalist patriarchal view of women as a resource to be exploited. And if they are, I've heard it from many activists, if these women are too stupid to make money any other way, let them carry babies for other people. It is like people don't reflect on how lucky they are that they have education, they have jobs, they have apartments in big cities. They don't have to rent out their wombs just for them and their families to survive financially. And this blindness is very widespread and very difficult to work with, because people get when you talk about trafficking in humans, trafficking in babies, they accuse you of being a retrograde and anti-feminist, which is very ironic in my case. And I myself support wholeheartedly a total ban on surrogacy, maybe only but for the closely related, like a sister or a mother or other close relative, because if we keep the altruistic surrogacy, it will be exploited and it will become even worse. Also, I've just learned that there is one NGO of women who work as surrogates. Their NGO is called Power of Mothers, which is also ironic in itself. And based on the official records, out of 4 of its founding members, 2 are men. Again, ironic. And they believe that the state should not intervene into this process at all, because they are afraid they will be forced to pay taxes on what they earn. And as I mentioned, this police officer who said that women who are engaged as surrogates, they usually they don't pay any taxes on what they get from those agencies. And when they end up with complications from the pregnancies or after, because we know that carrying a pregnancy with the embryo that is not genetically related to you, it is a pregnancy fraught with complications, and birth for women who carry such babies have also increased level of danger and complications. He said that these women usually don't have any support from the clinics after the process is done, after the baby is delivered and given to the parents. And women have to deal with whatever complications they have with the help of our collective medical system that is funded with our taxes, which is another issue here. So they don't want to pay taxes, but they will need to use the system because complications are unavoidable at this or that stage. So, and as to this petition that you mentioned, the problem is that the president of Ukraine has a very specific set of duties into which surrogacy and motherhood doesn't fall at all. This is the problem. If people who wrote this petition consulted us as Ukrainian feminists, we would have told them that before they published it. We would have told them that you should write this petition to the parliament, which has the power to ban it altogether or to introduce measures so that those children who are already being born or who are expected to be born in the next several months, because after the quarantine was established, most of those clinics stopped offering services of surrogate gestation here in Ukraine, but they still did collect eggs and sperm, so that they can offer embryos. So some of them offer embryos for export. So the issue again is so we as feminists are now developing our own petition asking the parliament to review this code of laws on family to make surrogacy to stop surrogacy being so readily available in Ukraine and to stop this form of trafficking in human beings. But until recently, we had like 3 months running petition collecting signatures to ratify the Istanbul Convention, and to get the necessary 25,000 signatures for this petition, it took more than 3 months. So I have very strong reservations as to efficiency of such petitions. We were planning of going through the Interfaction Parliamentary Caucus Equal Rights, which works specifically on issues of women's rights and equal opportunities for women and men in Ukraine. We were planning to go with them, or to work with them to adopt such legislation in Ukraine. But well, now our hand is forced, and now we have to catch up to what foreign feminists did, addressing our president.
Well, I guess probably there is a space. They sent the letter, I think, today or yesterday. There is probably a space to send another letter, or send the same letter also to the parliament. And I know that there are probably more organizations who are willing to sign the letter as well. But of course, what you're describing, the whole process of working through different, legislative routes, is quite important to understand in order to be effective. And not all of us are actually skilled in this political lobbying. A lot of feminist organizations are working mostly with like advocacy, and also, of course, it requires a lot of contextual knowledge. But I also wanted, you mentioned, when you describe the links, or when you drew comparison with the trafficking in women, but trafficking in children, here it's quite clear, I think, when we speak about the actual real purchase of babies. So we have one individual coming to another individual and paying for a child. It's as simple as that. I think people have troubles drawing these links when it comes to the exploitation of women, because here comes the argument of free choice. And as you explained very well, specifically if we speak about the women from the most disadvantaged backgrounds, it is, of course, like in the debate with prostitution, it's much easier to say that, well, this is the way out of poverty for these people. But I wanted to go a little bit more in depth in this, because I know you work on both subjects. And we know that both industries are connected, not only from the perspective that it is an industry and it's an industry of exploitation, but they both profit from exploitation of sexual and reproductive capacities and status of a woman. And in your experience in Ukraine, but also more generally, what links do you see between the two industries, if any?
I would say that both industries here in Ukraine target the most vulnerable. In our public transportation, in buses, in subway, you can see the advertisement for donation of eggs, for surrogacy, for working as dancers in exotic clubs, or massage parlors. These advertisements are not taken down; they are available everywhere. And from there was one point that I wanted to make as well. One of the things that women who do this as surrogates is that they also engage in international travel. They become pregnant here, they go elsewhere, carry pregnancy to term, give birth to a child, and they give it to the parents, so that the parents don't have to come to Ukraine themselves. And there have been cases of women, especially from southern regions of Ukraine, some of them from prostitution, who got married to men from Middle East, who went there, became pregnant, gave birth to a baby, and then disappeared altogether. No baby, no woman, nobody knows where they are, and nobody is looking for them. So there is so this is one more link between these two areas. And as I mentioned, this neoliberal setting of money decides everything, and this illusion of free choice that makes everything okay. When I argue with people about that, I ask them, so maybe what we would legalize next should be assassinations or selling babies for organs, or what next logical step do you want to take in this direction? If people decide that they want to do this, who are we to stop them?
Mhm.
For some people, this makes them understand what we are talking about, but not for all people, unfortunately.
Mhm. Well, you know, in the European context, I mean, this is where we work. There are also a lot of discussions, and the regulations, they differ from country to country, but there is a very clear push in this direction. There was recent consultation in the United Kingdom. There is a case in the Portuguese, I believe I think Supreme Court. There is also discussions in Spain, and yeah, the argument is that it's and also they recently regularized this in New York. And the premises are always the same. It is the freedom of choice for the women. But another argument, which is quite popular, so we have different customers who pay for the babies, and among them, more traditionally, we have the heterosexual couples who may, for some reason, not be able to conceive, or sometimes they don't want to carry a baby. The woman doesn't want to carry a baby, and they're usually very privileged individuals. And then there are also gay men who cannot carry a baby. And here the argument is that somehow they have the right. So it is described as a sort of a positive right, like we have the positive right to form a family, which is nothing more than nobody, the state cannot prevent you from forming a family. But it doesn't say anywhere that you have the right to a child, whether yourself or acquiring through some other third parties. But the understanding here, because of natural biological differences between women and men, and obviously men cannot, we didn't have one man up until today who actually gave birth, that they would like to become parents, and one option would be adoption. But there is an element of I don't know. It's important that it is your baby, that the baby has your genes or something like this. For me, it's like difficult to understand personally. Um, and what is the conversation about this in the Ukrainian context? Because this is quite strong, both in the United States and in Europe at the moment.
Currently, we don't have official laws that allow for gay marriage in Ukraine. There have been conversations about official registration of partnerships, but for now it's stuck in legislative limbo and not going anywhere. But homosexuality overall is not criminalized and can be practiced freely in whatever form you feel necessary. And the problem is, it was part of the recent scandal. Our um, High Commissioner for Children's Rights, in his Facebook post, so for the context, in Ukraine, pretty much everybody has a Facebook, and everybody argues there. So a lot of public conversations start there, and or a lot of issues are being discussed there very vividly. So he wrote a large post about how surrogacy is trafficking in babies and exploitation of women, and I was really surprised to see a Ukrainian official pretty much following the feminist talk points.
And this
uh,
was, excuse me, this was the Child Rights Commissioner?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I will give you the link so you can see for yourself. And he said that we don't have official procedures to check uh, the background of those commissioning parents, and people can exploit the system to get the baby. And he listed people with the history of sexual abuse, like the abusers, gay couples, and somebody else. And he was heavily criticized by the Ukrainian LGBT community by putting abusers and gay couples after a coma. But after coma. The issue is that according to the current Ukrainian legislation, you have to be a married couple to be able to commission a woman and a man to be able to commission a surrogate. And there have been cases of men, specifically from the countries where homosexuality is prosecuted, who come to Ukraine, who commission a woman, enter into a fake marriage, and she produces them a baby. They take the baby, and she gives up her parental rights, and they go away with the baby. And because those babies are not recorded officially as Ukrainian citizens, nobody checks on them after they move to another country. So he listed them as those who are exploiting the system, not presenting them as criminals. And because of that, the entire conversation about women's being exploited got derailed. And anybody who's trying to say that he was saying absolutely feminist, pro-women things was called a homophobe and anti-gender, which is another issue here in Ukraine, because we have very strong anti-gender moods and activities supported by major churches. And to be publicly visible as a feminist is not dangerous per se, but does give other people grounds to criticize whatever you are saying.
This is a very interesting point. I mean, it's also happening in varied degrees in different parts of Europe, especially the Eastern Europe. Yes. Okay. Well, Maria, do you want to add anything else? I mean, there are so many questions to be asked on surrogacy. I wanted to ask about the actual health consequences for women, because we heard a lot of stories, including the stories of women, in this COVID context. What we did realize, I personally didn't know it, is that women, at least some women who gestate another woman's egg, they become injected with immune suppressants. And so effectively, they had to be categorized under the COVID conditions when they were classifying different categories of vulnerable populations. And so they had to be classified as someone who would be the cancer patient who are undergoing the chemotherapy, for example. And it's such details that we do not think about when we consider what is surrogacy, because most of the time the stories that we hear, I mean, especially here in many European countries, when you go to the website of the clinic or the agency, effectively, it is full of these wonderful, sweet stories. And I'm particularly impressed with this image of an altruistic woman that they present. So here is a woman, and her entire duty or function and wish in life is to produce babies, and she's just waiting for this moment when she can give this child to somebody, because this fulfills her so ultimately. But we actually do not speak about the physical, psychological consequences and health consequences for the women. And this is just one aspect. And then there is a legal aspect, and there is a whole aspect of the neoliberal economic exploitation. I don't know if you want to add anything specifically. I mean, we wanted to organize this with you and to give kind of a focus on the Ukrainian situation, because it was in the media, because everybody saw the stories of those babies waiting. And by the way, what's happening with them? Are they still there? Because the borders are still closed, right? They will be open on the 22nd, I think.
Some people are getting to Ukraine not by planes, but they travel to neighboring countries, say to Belarus, and they drive from Belarus here to Ukraine. They've been engaging their embassies very actively to help with that. And the clinics also do engage their connections with the embassies because as far as I understand, they have this pretty much on the rails now, that they work with the embassies because embassies want to help their citizens get their babies from those Ukrainian broads or whatever that is going on with them. The issues that women in the surrogacy business face, they are not informed of them beforehand. Those those contracts that they draw, they don't say those women that these pregnancies are high risks, high risk. Those deliveries are high risk, and uh, recently, about a week ago, if I'm not mistaken, there was a case in Mykolaiv. A woman was found dead. She obviously gave birth and died in childbirth, and there was a dead baby with her, and there were traces of another baby there. So she gave birth to two babies. One is gone, she is dead, and her own children, two girls, 13 and 10, stay with her mother in a village, and they are not even able to go and see their mom because there is no transportation between the city and the villages. And so this gives me reasons to believe that besides the official clinics, there must be something else because no officially registered clinic claim this woman as their client. So
Yes.
it is possible that we do have illegal surrogacy procedures that are not that are even less regulated than the ones with the official clinics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I must say that this business is foreigner driven
Okay,
because
let's tell us more about it. Why is it foreigner driven?
mm, uh, we do have the uh, what would be the word, the cohort of people here in Ukraine who are rich enough to commission babies for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
but based on how it is advertised, it and how much it is advertised for the foreign audiences, I have reasons to believe that it is oriented towards foreign markets, specifically after India banned surrogacy because they had those huge clinics working with local women. And because there are a lot of people in the West who don't want to adopt children, or maybe because there are not that many children to adopt in Western countries due to different system of how foster care works, they prefer to go here and get a baby for themselves here from women who are not in the position to argue and not in the position to stand for themselves because they are already very vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, it brings us back to these links with the prostitution industry because we know it is also demand driven.
Yeah.
Um, and the justification and explanation for why it exists very much also kind of justified the keeping of women in the situation of poverty and exploitation rather than actually doing something for the women. Um, it's
Ukraine
little, yeah.
Uh, I just wanted to add here that Ukraine became a destination for sex tourists and for those who want to, have younger uh, bodies, use younger bodies, and this pedophile sex tourism is becoming a problem for us, and with our system, and that returns us to the topic of orphanages. There have been repeated scandals when children, especially children in early teens and tweens, that were exploited sexually, and nobody was punished for that.
Mhm.
So when foreign commissioning parents just drop their babies in those orphanages. They and because there are no official documents for those babies, nobody can adopt them. So
Yes.
they increase the number of children in Ukrainian orphanages, adding load to the Ukrainian taxpayers, and with no way for these children to be adopted, and so they end up also in the system to be abused and exploited.
When you say there is no way for them to be adopted, like never, there is no such legal possibility?
Yeah, because they are in this legislative limbo because their official parents are foreign citizens, but because they never took the baby to the embassy, never took the baby to their country, the baby doesn't have the papers of the citizen.
So they're stateless persons, effectively.
Pretty much so.
And how does it, I mean, what does it mean? You grow up, you turn 18. I mean, what are your rights? What are your legal rights? Who are you on paper in this situation?
The oldest must be about 6 or 7 now, so the issue hasn't risen up yet,
Okay.
but that issue has to be addressed.
Wow. Okay, I have a last question. What do you think we should do? When I say we, I'm being quite arrogant and speaking really about, I mean, the women feminist movement, whether it's global. I know you're already working with different networks at the global level, but what do you think really realistically could be done from the global perspective, from the European perspective, to help in any way? And I understand that we're not all powerful, foundations, but is there anything specific that you think we should do?
I think that one of the first things to do would be after we publish our letter and our petition to our parliament addressing this interfaction parliamentary caucus, asking to adopt the necessary amendments to the Ukrainian family code. European feminists can support it by explaining why this aligns with our European aspirations, because we still, no matter what is going on, we still want to become a part of the EU. And most countries of Europe, as far as I remember, surrogacy is banned altogether. So if we want to become a truly European country, we have to ban this form of trafficking in human beings. And also, if it is possible, to put pressure on the governments in Europe prosecuting those who commission babies elsewhere, like Sweden is doing with pedophiles buying children in Thailand.
Or like Norway is doing with all sex buyers. Well, they're supposed to be doing it anyways.
Yeah, that would be really nice. And to promote the idea of people not needing, that people don't have the right to their biological baby. There are enough babies who are already born in the orphanages. Something like that.
Okay, that's ambitious, but anyway, we can promise we're also member in the International Coalition for the Abolition of Surrogacy, and we will be working actively with them. For us personally as a network, it is an important subject because our target group are the most vulnerable women, and they come from the countries, including Ukraine. And we also had quite serious cases in Europe when there were trafficking rings, quite large ones, when women were exploited, and it was multiple exploitation. There was surrogacy, there was forced adoption, or not, I mean, at least it was seen as adoption, but it was forced on women. There was harvesting of eggs, all done on one woman, and that was clearly a criminal activity. And what we do fear and expect that, of course, with the consequences of COVID, women will be pushed in more and more dangerous situations. So we will continue working on this. And I want to thank you very much on behalf of our network. And I really hope that we will continue this conversation, not just on surrogacy, but I hope that next time we will be able to meet and discuss maybe something a little bit more positive, because we also know you have very strong and amazing feminist movement in Ukraine. And it would be very interesting to hear about other things that you are doing. And we, of course, we wish you good luck and strength.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to finish here. Thank you and bye.
Bye-bye.